is how I learn to let nothing be required, to arrive in a moment with no obligation, to respond, to understand, to become anything else. I did not realize how often I was negotiating with existence, offering effort in exchange for permission to rest. Loving you is how I learned that commission was never withheld, only assumed. Loving you is how I learned to feel the weight of expectation. Live quietly,
not through decision,
but through exhaustion. Silently being allowed to complete itself. Completion feels subtle. It does not announce victory.
loving you is how I learn.
To let experience arrive without posture, without readiness, without the reflex to present a version of myself that could be received. Reception is not always required. Some moments simply occur. Loving you is how I learn that awareness does not disappear when intention dissolves. It remains. You don't I didn't trust that it improved me. Loving you is how I learned to let stillness deepen without fearing loss of identity. Identity loses, tears and stains. Loving you is how I learned to let nothing be reported, and in requiring nothing, to feel how complete this moment already was before I Loving you is how I learned to let quiet last, not rushing to feel it, not treating it as an absence that needs explanation or sound. I used to hear quiet as something unfinished, a gap between meaningful moments, a pause waiting to be replaced by something more defined. Loving you is how I learned that quiet is not empty, it is spacious. Loving you is how I learned to feel how much information exists beneath words, how presence communicates without instruction, how safety announces itself through the absence of tension. Quiet reorganizes the body. Loving you is how I learned to notice how the mind grows uneasy when stimulation drops, how it searches for tasks, for stories, for something to manage. Management interrupts rest. Loving you is how I learned to let that unease rise and fall without obeying it, to let the system discover that nothing bad follows when nothing happens. Loving you is how I learned that silence allows memory to soften, that past experiences lose their sharp edges when not constantly rehearsed. Rehearsal keeps wounds current. Loving you is how I learned to let moments stretch without labeling them productive or wasted. Time does not need evaluation to be real. Loving you is how I learned to remain inside quiet long enough to feel the nervous system downshift on its own.
Downshift cannot be commanded.
Loving you is how I learned that peace does not arrive dramatically. It arrives unnoticed, then stays.
Loving it, loving it, loving it.
That's how I learned to let quiet last, and in lasting, quiet became a place I could live inside without disappearing.
Loving you is how I learned to let rest be enough, to stop treating stillness as a temporary condition that must justify itself with recovery or preparation. I used to rest with one eye open, monitoring how long it had been, calculating when I should return to motion, to effort, to relevance. Loving you is how I learned that rest does not exist to serve productivity. It exists to restore relationship with the body. Loving you is how I learned to notice how deeply ingrained the fear of stopping was, how silence felt unsafe, only because it removed distraction. Distraction hid fatigue.
to speak, without translating it into weakness, to let the body slow without narrating it as failure.
The body does not collapse when it rests.
It reorganizes. Loving you is how I learn to remain still long enough for the urge to justify myself, to dissolve on its own.
Justification is a habit learned under pressure.
Loving you is how I learn
that nothing essential leaves me when I stop moving. Nothing real requires constant proof.
Loving you is how I learn to let rest be complete. Not a pause, not a strategy, not an investment in later strength,
but an experience whole in itself.
Loving you is how I learn to let rest be enough,
and in resting, to feel a gentler form of strength return without being summoned.
Loving you is how I learn to be patient with becoming. I used to think becoming was a destination, a future version that would finally feel right. Loving you is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn that becoming is not somewhere else. It is happening while I breathe. Is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn to stop rushing toward myself, as if I were late to my own life. Loving you is how I learned that growth rarely feels dramatic. It feels repetitive. It feels right. It feels like learning the same lesson with softer resistance. Loving you is how I learn to allow confusion without panicking. Confusion is often reorganization. Loving you is how I learn that clarity comes and goes. It is not a permanent state. Loving you is how I learn to stay with questions longer, questions widen the inner space. Loving you is how I learn that impatience is a form of mistrust.
mistrust in time,
mistrust in process. Loving you is how I learned to notice subtle shifts, a reaction that softens, a pause that lengthens, a fear that loosens its thrill. These are milestones that do not announce themselves.
loving you is how I learn.
That becoming cannot be forced. It unfolds when given safety. Loving you is how I learn to let myself arrive slowly. Arrival that is rushed does not stay. Loving you is how I learn to be patient. We're becoming, because becoming is not something to finish. It is something to accompany. Loving you is how I learned to breathe without holding. I didn't know how often I paused myself between inhales, as if life needed to be managed breath by breath. Loving you is how I learned that a holding was never protection. It was habit. Loving you is how I learned to notice the small freezes, the places where the body waits for permission. Loving you is how I learned that breath returns on its own. It does not need instruction. Loving you is how I learned to let the exhale finish. Interrupting the exhale keeps tension alive. Loving you is how I learned that realization is not collapse. It is cooperation. Loving you is how I learned to trust the rhythm already happening. The heart, the lungs, the nervous system, they know. Loving you is how I learned that calm is not something to create. It is something to stop blocking. Loving you is how I learned to let space enter the body. Space reorganizes. Loving you is how I learned that breath is a conversation. I don't have to lead. Loving you is how I learned to breathe without holding. And in that breathing, life stops asking permission to continue. Loving you is how I learned to disappear without leaving, to let the sense of me thin out without fear that something essential will be lost. I used to believe I had to remain defined, to remain real, that identity was the anchor, keeping awareness from drifting into nothing. Loving you is how I learned that awareness does not need an anchor. It floats naturally. Loving you is how I learned to feel the moment when self-reference quiets, when the inner narrator forgets to speak, when experience continues without being claimed. Nothing collapses, nothing goes dark. Loving you is how I learned that presence does not depend on being someone specific, on holding a name, on maintaining continuity of personality. Continuity exists without effort. Loving you is how I learned to rest inside perception without standing at the center of it, to let sensations pass without assigning ownership. Ownership tightens experience. Loving you is how I learned that disappearing is not annihilation, but relief from unnecessary structure. Structure dissolves, life remains. Loving you is how I learned to disappear without leaving, and to realize I had never truly arrived as a separate thing to begin with. Loving you is how I learned to exist without commentary. I used to narrate everything as if life needed subtitles, as if silence were confusing. Loving you is how I learned that experience does not need explanation. While it is happening, explanation can wait. Loving you is how I learned to stop labeling moments as good or bad, while inside them labels interfere. Loving you is how I learned that presence is simpler than understanding. Understanding comes later. Loving you is how I learned to feel sensations without translating them into meaning. Meaning arrives on its own schedule. Loving you is how I learned to let thoughts pass without engaging.
Acknowledgement belongs.
Loving you is how I learned that silence does not need to be filled. It is already complete.
Loving you is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn.
Loving you is how I learn to trust raw experience.
Raw experience
Does not perform.
Loving you is how I learn.
Loving you is how I learn that my life does not need constant interpretation. Interpretation exhausts.
Loving you is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn. Loving you is how I learn.
Loving you is how I learn to rest in awareness. Awareness does not judge.
Loving you is how I learn.
That being here is enough information.
Loving you is how I learn.
To exist without commentary. And in that existence, life feels closer, not clearer, but truer. Loving you is how I learn to feel safe without explanation. I used to think safety needed reasons, proof, logic, assurance.
Loving you is how I learn.
Loving you is how I learn that safety is felt before it is understood. It arrives in the body. Loving you is how I learned to notice when my breath no longer guards itself. Guarding is exhausting. Loving you is how I learned that vigilance is not awareness. Vigilance scans.
Vigilance scans.
Awareness receives.
Loving you is how I learn
to let my shoulders drop without asking permission. The body knows before the mind agrees. Loving you is how I learned that safety does not eliminate fear. It allows fear to pass through. Loving you is how I learned to to stop rehearsing escape. Escape was never needed. Loving you is how I learned that comfort does not make me weak. It makes me accurate. Loving you is how I learned to stop translating my needs into something more acceptable. Needs do not need disguise.
Loving you is how I learned
That being held does not require constant touch. Sometimes it is presence, sometimes it is continuity. Loving you is how I learned that trust settles quietly. It does not argue. Loving you is how I learned to feel safe without explanation. Because safety is not a conclusion, it is an environment, and I am finally living inside it. Loving you is how I learned to let a day be just a day. I used to ask every morning what it would give me, what it would take, as if a day were a transaction. Loving you is how I learned to stop assigning roles to hours. This hour does not need to heal me. That hour does not need to teach me. Loving you is how I learned that living is not a curriculum. There is no syllabus for being human. Loving you is how I learned to let fatigue exist without turning it into guilt. Tired is not wrong, it is information. Loving you is how I learned to let sadness pass through without demanding meaning. Not every sadness points to loss. Sometimes it points to death. Loving you is how I learned to let joy arrive without holding it to it. Joy knows how to leave and return. Loving you is how I learned that ordinary moments do not need witnesses. They are complete on their own. Loving you is how I learned to stop reviewing my days at night. I don't grade them, I let them rest. Loving you is how I learned that consistency is its own form of beauty. Not loud, not dramatic, but sustaining. Loving you is how I learned to let a day be just a day. is how I learn to let everything happen without defense, to feel the moment before reaction builds its walls, before interpretation organizes experience into something manageable. I used to meet the world with preparation, a subtle tightening, ready to translate sensation into strategy, into protection, into position. Loving you is how I learned that most defenses were built against echoes, not against what was actually here. The present was rarely the threat. Loving you is how I learned to feel how the body braces from memory, how old weather moves through new skies, how the nervous system prepares for storms that are no longer forming. Loving you is how I learned to let sensation arrive without assuming intention, to let sound be sound before it becomes meaning, to let a glance be a glance before it becomes judgment. Interpretation accelerates distance. Loving you is how I learn to remain undefended long enough to discover that vulnerability is not exposure, but permeability. Permeability allows passage. Nothing stays long enough to wound when it is not resisted. Loving you is how I learned that openness does not invite harm. By default, it invites clarity, and clarity often reveals that fear was arriving early, announcing itself before reality had spoken. Ooh, loving you is how I learned to let everything happen without defense, and to notice how experience flows more cleanly when it is not forced through the narrow gate of protection. Loving you is how I learn to let experience be unclaimed, to stop reaching for it with identity, to stop saying, this is happening to me. I did not notice how quickly ownership formed, how instantly sensation was turned into narrative, how reflexively awareness was narrowed into a point of view. Loving you is how I learned to feel what happens when ownership relaxes, when experience continues without a sinner trying to hold it. Nothing disappears. Intensity softens. Nothing disappears. Loving you is how I learned.
It's how I learned.
That claiming experience
It's how I learned.
adds weight, adds responsibility, adds a subtle tension that asks, what does this mean for me? Loving you is how I learned to let sensation pass without assignment, to let emotion move without conclusion, to let thought arise without agreement. Agreement binds.
Presence does not.
Loving you is how I learned.
It's how I learned.
That unclaimed experience
It's how I learned.
feels wider, lighter, less urgent, as if life were happening without leaning on me to manage it. Loving you is how I learned to let experience be unclaimed and to rest inside what flows when nothing is held. Loving you is how I learned to let go gently, not releasing love, but releasing what no longer needs holding. Loving you is how I learned to let go of speed. Nothing needs to happen quickly anymore. We arrive when we arrive. Loving you is how I learned to let go of proving. I don't explain my choices, my life has already spoken. Loving you is how I learned to let go of noise. The world feels loud from a distance. We keep what's essential. Loving you is how I learned to let go of expectations. Not disappointed, just finished with demanding more. Enough has weight now. Loving you is how I learned to let go of fear. Fear still comes, but it sits quietly in the corner. It no longer drives. Loving you is how I learned to let go of old selves. We don't grieve who we were. We thank them,
They carried us.
this far.
Loving you is how I learned.
To let go of certainty. I don't need answers, I need this moment. Loving you is how I learned to let go of control. I trust the rhythm I follow rather than steer. Loving you is how I learned to let go without loss, because nothing in It's just changing shape. Loving you is how I learned to let go into sleep. Hands loosen, breath slows, everything essential stays. Loving you is how I learned to let go without losing myself. I used to think letting go meant disappearance, that something in me would be left behind. Loving you is how I learned that letting go is not erasing. It is releasing grip. Loving you is how I learned to loosen my hold on outcomes. Outcomes kept my hands full. Loving you is how I learned that what is truly mine does not slip away when my fingers open. It stays. Loving you is how I learned to stop clinging to versions of who I was. Past selves do not need defending, they did their work. Loving you is how I learned that identity is not fragile, it survives softness. Loving you is how I learned to release expectations without bitterness. Bitterness is weight. Loving you is how I learned that grief and release can coexist. Release does not deny love, it honors movement. Loving you is how I learned to let go of urgency. Urgency was never care, it was fear. Loving you is how I learned that letting go creates room. Room for breath, room for attention. Loving you is how I learned that I am still here, even when I stop holding on. More here, more present. Loving you is how I learned to let go without losing myself. Because what is essential does not require grip. It remains when everything else is loosened. Loving you is how I learned to let life be ordinary. I used to think ordinary meant nothing special, something to escape, something to outgrow. Loving you is how I learned that ordinary is where life actually happens. Not in the peaks, not in the stories we're told, but here. Loving you is how I learned to stop waiting exceptional moments. Exceptional moments do not carry a life. Ordinary ones do.
Loving you is how I learn
to notice the texture of daily things. The sound of dishes, the way light falls, the rhythm of footsteps. These are not filler, they are substance. Loving you is how I learned that meaning does not need intensity. Intensity burns quickly, meaning settles. Loving you is how I learned to let days repeat. Repetition is how trust is built. Loving you is how I learned that boredom is not an enemy. It is an invitation to look closer. Loving you is how I learned to stop apologizing for a quiet life.
Quiet is not small.
Quiet is sustainable. Loving you is how I learned that joy does not need to be remarkable. It needs to be honest. Loving you is how I learned to accept routines as devotion. Routines are love, kept daily. Loving you is how I learned that ordinary does not mean stagnant. It means stable enough to change gently.
Loving you is how I learn
to let life be ordinary. Because ordinary is not the absence of beauty. It is beauty that does not need to prove itself. Loving you is how I learned to let life be unfinished. I used to believe everything needed a conclusion, a shape, a sentence that closed the thought. Loving you is how I learned that life does not like endings.
It prefers continuity.
Loving you is how I learned to stop forcing clarity out of moments that are still forming. Some things are not unclear, they are early.
Loving you is how I learned
that uncertainty is not a gap, it is a field.
things grow there.
Loving you is how I learned to sit inside days that don't resolve.
No breakthrough,
No lesson,
no lesson.
just living.
Loving you is how I learn
To trust that meaning does not rush. Meaning lingers and gathers.
Loving you is how I learn.
Loving you is how I learned that healing often looks like nothing happening. The nervous system finally resting. Loving you is how I learned to stop collecting experiences.
As proof of living.
Living is happening whether I collect it or not.
Loving you is how I learn
to let emotions stay messy. Need emotions are usually rehearsed. Loving you is how I learn to let contradictions exist. can be grateful
and
tired,
present
and uncertain. Loving you is how I learned that wholeness does not mean completeness.
It means inclusion.
Loving you is how I learned to let memory remain imperfect. Memory edit to protect us. Loving you is how I learned to stay with a life that is still unfolding. Not impatient, not disappointed, just attentive. Loving you is how I learned to let life be unfinished. Because unfinished,
Unfinished,
is alive. Loving you is how I learned to let my heart exist without explanation, to feel emotion before turning it into argument, before building a structure around it that justifies its presence. I did not realize how quickly I defended my own feelings against invisible judges, how instinctively I translated tenderness into logic so it would be allowed to remain. Every pulse asked for permission. Loving you is how I learned that emotion does not require a case to be valid, that the heart is not a courtroom and feeling is not on trial. Some truths arrive without evidence and remain true without proof. Loving you is how I learned to sit beside sadness without interrogating it, to let longing stretch across the body without demanding a destination, to feel happiness without calculating how long it will last. Duration does not determine worth. Intensity does not require apology. Loving you is how I learned to let contradiction live inside affection, to love and fear, to trust and tremble, to expand and hesitate without forcing resolution. The heart is wide enough to hold opposites without breaking. It was thought that demanded symmetry. Loving you is how I learned to feel emotion as weather, moving through space that does not need to be rearranged to accommodate it. Storms do not damage the sky, they reveal its scale. Loving you is how I learned let my heart exist without explanation. And in that permission, feeling stopped defending itself and began to breathe. Loving you is how I learned to let my life breathe. I didn't know how tightly I had been holding it. Every plan, every intention, every hope, I was gripping as if looseness meant loss. Loving you is how I learned that breathing requires space. Pressure restricts what needs to move. Loving you is how I learned to stop crowding my days with expectation. Suffocates what wants to arrive naturally. Loving you is how I learned to leave room between moments, room for mistakes, room for pauses, room for silence. Loving you is how I learned that not filling space is an act of trust. Trust that something else will enter or not, and either is fine. Loving you is how I learned to stop sketching my feelings. Feelings do not follow calendars. They arrive when they are ready. Yeah. Hey, loving you is how I learned that control often disguises fear. Fear of collapse, fear of emptiness. Loving you is how I learned to allow my days to stretch and contract. Some days feel wide, some feel narrow, neither is wrong. Loving you is how I learned to let tiredness breathe, to stop pushing past it as if it were an obstacle. Loving you is how I learned that rest expands life, it does not shrink it. Yeah. Loving you is how I learned to let joy breathe.
Joy tightens
When clung to,
joy opens.
when trusted. Loving you is how I learned to let my thoughts come and go. Not every thought needs to stay. Loving you is how I learned that meaning cannot be forced. It settles when space is made. Loving you is how I learned to let my life breathe. Because a breathing life does not need to be pushed, it moves on its own.